It's Cardboard Time, episode number 113, and I'm your host, Arwen Kathke. On today's episode, I have reviews of both Alibis and Kinfire Delve Callous's Lab, and I also have a preview of what I'm excited about at Origins Game Fair 2025. And if you're listening to this on the day that it drops, I will be heading down to Columbus in a week from today. I am fully unprepared. I have no idea what I'm going to pack or do other than a few meetings and a couple of after-hours gatherings and some personal stuff as well that happen to coincide very well with timing for the convention. But I am excited. I have seen a few games that I am excited about, and we will talk about those on the back half of the episode. But first, we have to get through the reviews and what we always do, the Shelf of Aspiration, which we haven't touched in 3 weeks. I haven't played any games off of it in 3 weeks, unfortunately, but thank you all for giving me the week off. This kind of realigned me to make sure that we have that drive home episode on time. But getting back to that Shelf of Aspiration, it is at 118. I was trying to delay the bad news. That is up by 3. These were actually 3 games. 1 was a gift and then 2 were purchases. But the gift came from my friend Justin, who was clearing off his shelves. And I picked up King Chocolate, which is an old Mayfair game about the production cycle of chocolate. And it looked interesting. It's more of an abstract game than anything. It doesn't really have anything like ingrained to do with the production cycle. You're basically moving cubes from one area to another. Very abstract strategy game, but it looked interesting. So I wanted to check that out before it got released to the ether and somebody else picked it up. And then 2 purchases from Steven that I've had my eyes on for a while, and that's because they are either from friends, in this case, Ashwin, who did The Wolves. I wanted to pick that up. Area control game that I've been very interested in checking out. And then online acquaintances, Calvin Wong Seilun and Eric Lang, the Mass Effect Priority Hagalaz game that they did. I am very interested to check that one out. I've heard some mixed things. I do like a good dungeon crawl. I have been obsessed with Mass Effect in the past. I have played through twice, like the full trilogy I played through twice. So I've played a lot of Mass Effect in my time and interested to check out the board game and how well that was implemented. But nothing played off the shelf at the very least. I've been doing some BGA stuff, and I also got to play SETI yesterday, which I don't own. That was off of Steven's shelves, who recently got it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I may be looking at getting this one used if I can find a way to pick that up. So that is all for the Shelf of Aspiration. We know that it is crazy season with Origins coming up and getting review copies and all that other stuff. So we will see what happens with that post-Origins. We'll let you know during that ride home. So let's get into the review section. I have 2 for you today. The first one is Alibis. This is from 2 to 6 players. It plays in about 20 minutes. Designed by Yusuke Sato, and the art is by Albert Montez. And this is published by Allplay. Whodunit? In Alibis, a suspicious lineup of supervillains lies before you and your team, and you're tasked with finding the true criminal. To start the game, you're secretly given information about 2 innocent suspects. Cooperatively, you will associate your 2 characters with a 1-word clue. If everyone does that correctly, you have found the culprit. But be careful, your clue might erroneously point at another player's villain. So this is a review copy. Thanks to Allplay for letting me check this out. And I have had this in my possession for quite a while. I believe since PAX of last year, I picked this up, and I have been playing it quite a bit, showing it off for different groups, different sizes, and I finally found the right time to kind of bring that to light. I do believe it is on crowdfunding right now through All Play. So the easiest comparison that I have for this game that I've seen is kind of code names, and I think it's just for the word association, where you're trying to associate different words with a single word to get people to guess them. There is definitely a different vibe once you get to playing it and once you get to see kind of how the mechanics work. This is definitely different than Codenames, even though on the surface it definitely does look like it and at first glance. One of the things that the description really didn't mention is the fact that you're ultimately playing over 3 rounds instead of 1, and you're trying to do that to get rid of these heat tokens, which is really the true core of the game. The more heat tokens you get rid of, the better, and ultimately you're trying to get rid of all of them out of your stack. So if anyone guesses your two-word combo, which points to 2 different villains, which you know are innocent, hence the alibis, you get rid of 1 heat. So it doesn't matter how many people guess that combo, as long as you get 1 person that got it right, you get rid of a heat. Then, once everybody's gone around the table, for everyone who correctly deduced the true supervillain, so the one person who, or the one clue that didn't go out, you get to reduce the heat by 3. So that is really what you're trying to do, is get everything right so that you can get rid of those big chunks of heat. I do feel like this game is more difficult on average than a game like Codenames, and it's kind of due to the swinginess of the word combinations you get. Sometimes it is incredibly obvious to make an association. Other times it's incredibly difficult, and you get 1 crack at that. It's not like you have multiple rounds that you can kind of make up for it in different ways. You get 1 crack at it for that round, and that's what you got to work with. Sometimes you have similar words on the board as well, and again, similar to Codenames, that are going to be getting in the way of your clue giving and may throw somebody off. So you have to be super careful about how you make that connection. But the fortunate thing is, you're never trying to do it with like 3 or 4 or 5 words. You're only doing it with the 2. So that is kind of the vibe and the gist of this game. The game does pack a ton in the box size. It is a very small box. It is difficult to fit everything without lid lift, so people who are kind of picky about that, like myself, that is something that you may wind up finding yourself fiddling with the box and trying to make sure that everything fits just so. I have gotten way better at learning the precise orientations, how to flip the markers left and right to make sure that the box basically stays closed. But yeah, it's just kind of a acquired taste after 6 or 7 times playing the game. You figure this stuff out. I do like this game better in the 4 to 6 player groups. The 2 to 3 player count variant does do an okay job at making things fun and replicating the full experience. There's a couple of rules variations. I think it's okay. I do prefer that at the 4 to 6 range. I do think it's a little bit more fun. The art, I will say, is one of my favorite parts of the game. It is delightfully reminiscent of the Tick animated series, and I'm probably showing my age by making that reference, but I thought it was a very fun fit for the game. You get that out on the table and you see these characters, and they're very cool and fun to look at. They don't do anything as far as gameplay wise, but they're fun to kind of look at and see, and when you're bringing it out to the table, it does make for a little bit of a nice presence. The game is super easy to teach. I usually do have players up and running in less than 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes is probably the longest teach that I've done. It's very quick and easy once you get it set up to point everything out and get everybody running, especially if you're going to run a practice round. Super easy to do that. From a vision and accessibility standpoint, there's no color vision issues outright, but from a just general vision perspective, the symbols can be a little bit small just due to the box size, and things and components are inherently small. It's easy to go and ask a player, hey, what was your symbol again, so that you can mark it down on your note sheet. And I thought that it did a good enough job that I did not have any issues. So for my final thoughts, Alibis definitely is a game that has lived in my game bag since I got it due to its size, the fact that it's easy to teach, and the fun that all the groups that I've taught it to have had with it. I'm bringing it with me to a game day tomorrow as well that we're having at work. So yeah, if you don't mind a bit of swinginess in its difficulty, and you're going to see this a lot, you do have that in Codenames, you're going to see it in this, based on the cards that come up, that's just going to be kind of the way that it is. But if you don't mind that, and you do enjoy word association games like this is definitely a great value proposition for the box size. It is staying on my shelves and probably in my bag for quite a while. That is Alibis. And the next game that I have up is Kinfire Delve, Callous's Lab. This is for 1 to 2 players, and you can play up to 4 if you have multiple sets. It plays in about 60 minutes, designed by Kevin Wilson. The art is by Katarzyna Bekis, Sandra Chewinska, Kate Vesner-Radelchik, Victor Koizra. And this is published by Incredible Dream Studios, and I apologize if there were any mispronunciations. In Kinfire Delve, Callous's Lab, a tactical and cooperative card game for 1 to 2 players, you will fight your way through the well deck of challenge cards to reach Callous, the master of the well, and fight him in an epic final battle. Callous's well is made up of 4 challenge cards with Callous himself in the middle. As a challenge is defeated, another takes its place with 57 challenge cards in total. As you face the challenges of the well, you may play a skill card from your hand only when it matches the color of the challenge card. For example, if you're facing a red challenge card, then you may only play a red skill card. Some cards have 2 colors and some are white, which is wild. If the card you play does not defeat the challenge, you'll be able to add some progress to it and attempt it again, although you may suffer a penalty for doing so. Other seekers can provide help by playing one of their own cards as a boost, but beware, running out of cards nets you an exhaustion card before you can draw a new hand. Exhaustion cards are never good, but some are worse than others. Defeating a challenge provides you a reward such as regaining health or delving deeper into the well, which is represented by discarding unseen challenge cards. Once you've made your way to the bottom of the well, you'll face Callous himself. All seekers share a health pool, and if that health pool reaches 0, you're defeated. This is a game that requires teamwork and persistence, as wells of Atios are unpredictable and quite dangerous. So I picked this up at Game & Gather in Buffalo. This had catch my eye for a while. I wanted to pick one up. I wanted to see what the fuss was about. I've heard a lot of great things from other solo gamers about this game, so I decided to pick up a copy for myself. And to start off, I do like the story that this is telling with the characters and Callous himself. I'm assuming that the other sets kind of do the same. They kind of build up this universe of Atios and these different wells and these different characters that you're going and going on these delves on. I think that was pretty cool. It's neat. I think that that'll be something, if you really get into lore and storyline, you'll probably like this. The production value is amazing. Many cards have foil accents on them. The quality is great. The box is really thick enough, the box top itself, to function as a great dice tray. I thought that it was extremely well done. It's very satisfying. I've got dice trays that are flimsier than this box top, to be honest. So I thought that was really cool. and interesting and a nice little touch, especially if you're going to play in a very small area. If you're on a train, if you're on an airplane, something like that, if you have the space and you're a little bit cramped, you do have that nice area to roll the dice that they're not going to go everywhere. The real star here, in my opinion, is the gameplay. And this is what I absolutely loved about this, especially as a solo gamer. I think that this very much distills a dungeon crawl into a card game better than anything that I've played before. As far as a small box, hey, you're on a dungeon crawl, you're trying to get from point A to point B. This really does a fantastic job of it. And there are some vibes of a game like One Deck Dungeon, which does a fine job of it, and I still enjoy One Deck Dungeon. I feel like I'd rather play this over One Deck Dungeon any day. And I think part of that is the push your luck aspect, but you do have a lot of control over what you do. There's a lot of really good hand management in this, combining cards and playing them in a way that's going to really benefit you, and you're going to be able to kind of combo some cards. And then you get to decide how much luck you want to rely on by the cards that you play. You can go and you can play cards to basically defeat the challenge outright and not have to rely on any dice being rolled. Or you could say, I really want to save some cards. I'm going to go and not play a huge amount of them, and then I'm going to try to get the rest of the symbols I need off of that dice roll. So I really, really like that. I think it's an excellent use of hand management as a mechanism, and it creates a ton of tension, especially as the play delves further. Your hand gets smaller and smaller. The more saving of cards that you do up front is going to make that fight a little bit easier on the back end. But no matter what, you are dealing with this dwindling deck, and these health effects are starting to build up on you that are escalating things more and more and more. I think one of the cool things is you can defeat an enemy and basically draw back up because you don't automatically draw cards. The ability to draw back up and not have to take a penalty for that is so incredibly satisfying when you can time that right. You empty your hand, you draw right back up, and you've got a full hand again, kind of staving off this horrible effect that might happen. I think that in and of itself is such a cool mechanism, and I really appreciated that, and I'd be interested to see what the other games do as far as that goes. I'd be very interested to try this at 4. One of the things that's kind of a mechanism in this is boosting, and doing your solo boost is fine, but the interplay with others, I think, would be very interesting to see how the dynamic plays out, especially when you've got 4 people that are trying to work together, that are trying to assist with their abilities in going further and further on this delve. I would also like to explore more of the characters, and that's one thing. This only does come with 2 characters. It's plenty to play, and you're going to get through a few amount of plays before you've seen what the characters can do. You're familiar with them. You're familiar with what the dungeon provides. And you're probably going to get through about 10 games before it's going to really start feeling samey. And you're going to want that variety. I kind of want to see the characters outright because I want to see the different abilities and how they play off of each other. And I think that that's cool. But I think that the other thing is the fact that the price point is cheap enough that buying another set won't break your budget. So this cost me $25. You might be able to find it on sale. You might be able to find it used. You might be able to buy multiple and get a deal that way. But $25 is nice for this basically size of game. I think that it's a really good price point for this. And you can buy a couple of sets, you can combine them and get your friends over and play with these different characters and go on the different adventures and the different quests. I believe that there's 3 of them out at this time, and I believe that there might be some interoperability with the different Kinfire games as well. So that's really cool, this universe that's kind of building up. From a vision and accessibility standpoint, all the colors do have associated symbols, so there's no issues whatsoever with the color vision on this game. I had a perfectly fine time with it and no problems whatsoever. So from a color vision accessibility standpoint, I think that this does really well. So, for my final thoughts, if you're a solo gamer, especially, or a co op gamer that really likes a good compact dungeon crawl experience, something that's portable that you can take with you, that you want something a little bit meatier than your standard small box games, this is a great option for that. A lot of great decision space, how the cards come out, what time they come out, how you're going to play your skills based off of what the current board state is, and that hand management aspect to this, I think, makes for a very interesting game. I'm going to pick up more of these. I probably will pick up, since it is 3, I probably will pick up the other 2 just to complete the series and play with those different characters and see what the other delves have in store for me. And then, who knows, might explore the other parts of the universe as well. But I highly recommend this game, especially for the price point. I thought it was excellent. That is Kinfire, Delve Callous's Lab. And now let's talk about Origins 2025. And it's a very interesting year for Origins, and I was quite honestly very surprised at the amount of games that were of interest to me. I thought this will be a rehash of things I've seen in the past, I know that are coming out, and I was kind of surprised. Some have been on my radar for a while. I've known that they're coming out. I've been very well aware of them, and some kind of came out of left field. I had no idea that they were coming, and we're going to talk about those too. The first one that I wanted to talk about was exactly one of those. I hadn't heard about it until it got added to the Origins preview list on BGG a little while ago. And if you are going to Origins, I do recommend checking out the preview list. It gives you a lot of what's coming out at Origins, not necessarily what's going to be coming out and being sold there, but you'll see previews of what publishers are going to be talking about. You are going to have some games that are newly for sale at Origins, and then you'll have some games that were on sale for quite a bit, but they will be shown off at Origins. So do go check out that list. That's what I use to kind of reference here. But that first game that really surprised me was a game called The Game Makers. And this is by Bezier. This does look like a very similar vibe to Tabletop Inc., but I feel like this really encompasses the entire space of the board game industry. So you have your manufacturing. This was actually made in partnership with Panda Manufacturing. So you have your manufacturing logistics, your design, your development, your marketing, all this other stuff that goes into the tabletop industry. This is in this game from what I've read, and I'm very interested. I'm going to try to reach out to Bezier to see if I can get a preview of this at Origins, because I think that it looks really cool. It does feature licensed games from all around the industry, which I also thought was a really neat touch. There's things like Finspan that are on there. You've got Too Many Bones on there. You've got all sorts of different games from different publishers that you know and love, and they are in this game from a license perspective. So I love to see the community working together as well, and different publishers that are willing to put their games into other games, because I think that's what makes the crossovers make the game really cool. This is also the same designer as Fromage, Ben Rossett, who I also didn't know produced Brewcrafters, or designed it rather. So I'm a big fan of Ben's work. He's really got some good games that are out there, and I'm very interested to see what this game looks like, plays like, and yeah, definitely looking forward to checking this one out and finding out more information. The next game I have known about for a little bit. I did not get in on the crowdfunding campaign, but Final Girl, The Killer from Tomorrow expansion from Van Ryder Games. Terminator-themed Final Girl, sign me up. I'm here for it. I love it. And I'm a big fan of the Final Girl series. I've loved all the different chapters that I've played, and I usually do pick out one or two from each season to pick up. Not all of them are really of interest to me. I don't foresee myself ever really getting all of them, but I do like building up that collection as more come out. The ones that are most of interest to me, I usually do pick up. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to Hellraisers in Kanawha County. This is the newest design by Whirligig Games. After Molly House, this is a PAX style game where the playable factions are two different mining companies and the uprising labor movement. So, again, this does discuss the labor movement in the early 1900s in the coal mining industry. I do think that it's a very interesting theme. The different factions and the interplay between them with that PAX style gameplay, I think, will be really interesting and pretty cool. How to Save a World from Burnt Island Games. I got to play a demo version of this at PAX in 2023. I'm sad that I didn't get in on the crowdfunding campaign, but this is a game that I'm looking forward to bringing home the most out of anything at Origins. I do know that there's limited copies of this each day, and I do definitely want to get my hands on a copy of that. You are basically scientists kind of trying to put your influence in different ways to save a world. You can go and build this giant space shield. There's this asteroid that's coming down and you're trying to figure out what to do. So there's a space shield that you can build. There is a laser, I think, that you can build. And then you can just evacuate everybody off the planet and say, we're going to leave the planet and see ya. So that's really trying to put your investment in those different avenues. And then the one that basically is the most quote unquote viable is the one that's going to get the most points at the end of the game. So I'm really interested in checking that one out, especially the full version. I didn't get to play a full game, but I did have a good time with that. Meltwater by Capstone Games is another game that I'm very surprised that I'm interested in, because I'm not usually into war games, but I have heard a lot about this game. This is a game about surviving after a nuclear war in Antarctica. It's designed by Aaron Escobedo, and it's a tactical starvation game. This is kind of an interesting example of a winnerless board game, because even if you survived, you still really win. You've eliminated the opposition to you, but did you really win? You're still going to starve. There's no resources. Antarctica's shrinking, and basically, everybody's going to die at the end. So I think that it's an emerging genre. There's more games that are kind of exploring this territory. I know Zoe Allred and Matt Hawker have actually started a company to do that and kind of focus more on those winnerless games. And I think that it's pretty interesting. So I'm excited to check this one out by Capstone. Mew and More. This is by Heidelbar Games, and this is a very unique trick-taking game that I got to play with Joe, Amanda, and Mick at OrcaCon this year. And the more that I've been away from this game, the more that I thought about it. I wasn't quite sure when I was playing the game, like what I was doing. It is a little bit of a barrier to entry, but if you've played a lot of trick-taking games, you'll eventually come up to speed on it. This is probably not going to be one for somebody that's just beginning trick-taking. It is a team-based game, so you're bidding on trying to figure out whether you're trying to get the most tricks or you're trying to be on a team that's preventing the team that's trying to get the most tricks from doing so. So it's a very interesting dynamic. Again, this is probably the best team-based trick-taking game that I've played from a player tension standpoint. We had a lot of moments where I think we might have been close to getting kicked out of that room because we had those stand up and shout kind of moments at the table. So this was a really good one. I've wanted to get my hands on it ever since I played it at OrcaCon, and I'm excited to see more of it at Origins. And then the final game that I'm really looking forward to at Origins, and I kind of have my eyes on, is Uh-Oh Dino by Ludoliminal. After impressing me with Diatoms, I definitely want to check this out. Sabrina did a fantastic job with Diatoms, and I'm looking very forward to seeing more of this game. I got a very brief preview of it at Gamma, but this is a cooperative game where you're playing as a family of Stegosauruses, trying to rescue as many of your herd's eggs as possible before the board completely collapses. There is a bag draw mechanism. Basically, the more pointy the chits are in the bag, the more that they're going to give you, but the more risk that you have from drawing them. So I really like that. I think that that's really cool that there's that element of touch that goes into this game. Just something different, something that kind of puts that bag draw, bag building aspect on its head and does something different with the mechanism. It sounded really cool to me, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of this. And again, Diatoms probably going to be on my top 10 for the year. Even at this point, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still playing it and still exploring more of that. So looking forward to that. There's inevitably going to be more games that come up at Origins. There's people that don't put their games on the preview list that I'll be walking by and all of a sudden I'll be like, why haven't I heard of this? It wasn't on the preview list. So definitely there's always surprise games. I usually ask around who are the small publishers, which I go and see. If you do listen and you do see one of those games that really stood out to you, please do get a hold of me and let me know, because I love checking them out. I love giving publicity to those smaller publishers that might not get the exposure, that are coming up with really, really cool stuff. So I will be at Origins from Tuesday through at least Sunday, if not Monday. We're not quite sure whether we're leaving Sunday night or not. But I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone. Please stop me and say hi if you see me. Let me know if you're going to Origins. So definitely want to see people, play some games. I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about Origins this year, is really sitting down and playing more games, getting to talk with more people. And I do have quite a few meetings, but I also have some time set aside that I'm just going to walk through the booth. I'm also taking my parents for the first time this year, so they get to see what I do and get to be a part of that finally. So I'm excited about that too, that they do get to see this at least for a little while, get to hear and see some of the people that I've been talking about. So super excited. Again, it's my hometown convention. I love it there. I do have, a couple years back, I did a preview, like a first-timer's guide. If you are new to Origins and going for the first time, you definitely want to check that out. Hit me up with more recommendations. I can give you some more updated recommendations as well. But again, please stop me, say hi if you see me, and let's chat. So I think that'll do it for us today. If you want more information on Cardboard Time, you can always go to the website at cardboardtime.com. The Instagram and Blue Sky is at Cardboard Time. The Discord on the Tabletop Express server is always a great time. You can email me at cardboardtime@gmail.com or go to the website for that invite if you want that. Looking forward to Origins Game Fair in 2 weeks. Looking forward to that ride home episode where I get to excitedly talk about all the cool stuff that I saw and did while I was down there. It's going to be a long week for me, filled with stuff. A lot of things to talk about on that next episode, so don't be surprised if it's probably an hour and a half or more, as it usually is. But thank you everybody for listening. Much appreciated. And we'll see you around the table in 2 weeks for another episode of Cardboard Time.